Okay, let's look at a couple of your questions off of Twitter. At Wisconsin Aaron is how you can tweet at me and also follow along. All right, let's get to a couple of these. First one from Belky Rob says, please try and figure out why so many so-called Packer fans are already concerned in calling Rashawn Gary a bust. Well, I think there are a number of things that can go into this. First off, I'm not going to yell at Packer fans for thinking that. And I'm not saying that he's a bust. I don't think that he is, but some people are worried about it. And here's why. Number one, the Packers have had a lot of first-round busts over the last handful of years, especially under Ted Thompson. Now let's look at some of the first-round picks and see why some Packer fans are going to be gun-shy about a guy who hasn't produced anything yet and who really hasn't been used. And I'll get back in a minute and tell you why I'm not calling him a bust. But let's look at some first-round picks that make Packer fans gun-shy. All first-round picks: Demarius Randall, HaHa Clinton-Dix, Dayton Jones, Nick Perry, Derek Sherrod, Justin Harrell. Those are the failed first-rounders of Ted Thompson. That's 6 guys who were either busts, or in the case of somebody like Randall or Clinton-Dix, maybe not flat-out busts like Sherrod or Harrell, but those guys were drafted in the first round. They're not even on the team anymore. I think it's very normal and natural for a lot of Packer fans to be worried about Rashawn Gary. Now, on the flip side, there's quite a bit of depth at the positions that he's going to be playing. The pass rush is pretty well set with the Smiths. The defensive line is set up. There isn't a whole lot of room for him at this moment. And the Packers have had nothing but good things to say about him. But why are some Packer fans worried that he's a bust? Because they are used to seeing busts in the first round. And he hasn't been playing. And when he has played, like in the preseason, he didn't do anything. In my mind, I can't say that he's a bust his first few months into his tenure with Green Bay. I won't do that. But that's your answer as to why. Next question. How long until Jenkins takes over? Well, we could see him tomorrow against the Vikings. Like I said, if Bakhtiari is out and people start getting shuffled around the offensive line, especially if Billy Turner has to move over to left guard, we could see Jenkins tomorrow. There would be a good possibility of that. Otherwise, I think the Packers, I think they'll play it by ear, week to week. It was a battle during the preseason, and anything that is that close is going to be a week-to-week type issue. More from Twitter. Take It Easy 99 says, Packers 24, Vikings 21. That is the prediction. It says Devontae will go for 10 receptions, 131 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. All he does is score touchdowns against the Vikes. I would expect to see a better week from Adams this week. It was quiet for him last week against the Bears, but then again, everything was quiet in the Packers' offense. And on the road against tough defense, it's understandable, especially week 1, first time running the Matt LaFleur offense. But week 2, at home, another week of the offense under the belt, I would say would spell good things for the Packer offense as a whole. And also, obviously, including that would be Davante Adams. So, I think he will have a better week. I would expect his numbers to be better this week than they were last week. Evan says, over-under at 43. I'll take the under. I would agree with that. And my score prediction from last week for the Packers and Bears was too high. And I think we will more than likely see another low-scoring, ugly type game against the Vikings. I don't think there's going to be a ton of offense. The big key for the Packers is going to be keeping Dalvin Cook in check. I don't think Cousins is going to put up big numbers against Packer defense. I think they're going to try to do to him what they did to Mitch Trubisky, which is what Tramon Williams said, make him play quarterback, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I think that whatever that means, I think they should do it to Cousins. Whatever they did to Trubisky, try doing the same thing to Cousins. I think they're, in some ways, similar quarterbacks. You got guys who are trying to get over the hump where their team is really going into the season saying, okay, the difference between us being a contender and even missing the playoffs is going to be our quarterback, how our quarterback performs. And I think Cousins and Trubisky have a lot of similarities, and maybe not necessarily in their skill set and their play style, but as far as the pressure that's put on them and how the team is relying on them. I think that whatever the Packers did to Trubisky last week, as Tremont put it, make him play quarterback. I think it's got to be the same strategy that you use with Cousins, somebody who's underperformed. Get pressure on him, get him uncomfortable, and let the Packers' good secondary go to work. And as far as the 43 points combined in the game goes, like I said, I think it's going to be lower than that. I don't think the Packers are going to have a ton to show on offense against the Viking defense. It's a tough start for Green Bay to get things going here this season. Two really good defenses with a new offensive system. It's a good test to see where you're at. But I would expect that the Packers' offense is going to function a little bit better than they did against Chicago, playing at home. Like I said before, another week of offense under their belt. And they do have some film to go off now for their own offense and also the Viking defense. But I would agree that under 43 points is safe. I think I don't think both teams are going to score in the 20s, and I don't think either is going to get much above 20, if anyone hits it at all, to be honest with you. All right, Eric says, I think the Packers can pull it out and win, but I'm curious who will be the new face of the defense. I like that question. Who will be the new face of the defense? And I think the Packers could potentially have a couple of faces to their defense. The first two guys who come to my mind are Zadarius Smith and Jaire Alexander. Smith, well, actually both Smiths, but especially Zadarius, had a lot of accolades thrown on him during the offseason, during training camp. A lot of positive talk about him, and he did not disappoint in week one. And Preston played great, too. Preston Smith probably played better than Zadarius Smith. But I think Zadarius, he's really good, and he's kind of got the personality to stick out, and so does Alexander. He's not afraid to stand out, and he's maybe the most talented player on the Packer defense. You could say Kenny Clark could be in that discussion. As far as talent, he definitely is. But I just feel like these days, especially in the type of defense that the Packers play, that he's not going to get noticed as much as he probably should. And that's not taking anything away from Clark. He's a hell of a player, huge difference maker on defense. But the guys who make the shiny plays are your edge rushers, guys who are getting your sacks, Zadarius Smith, and your guys in the secondary, shutting down big-time receivers, picking the ball off, Jaire Alexander. So I think if you're looking for face of the defense, I'd say Zadarius Smith, Jaire Alexander. Guys who are at positions who are going to get noticed more. One more here from Brent. Are the Vikings overrated? Brent, I don't think that they are. Again, we only have 1 week of games and off-season expectations to go off of. But I don't think that the Vikings are overrated. A lot of people picked the Vikings to finish third in the division behind the Packers and the Bears this season. So I don't think that they're overrated. I think coming into this season, they may have even been slightly underrated. Their biggest question, and it's, like I said before, kind of like Chicago, their biggest question is quarterback. What are you going to get out of Cousins? They spend all that money on him, and he didn't get the job done for him. Not last season. And yeah, even last week, they tried to keep the ball out of his hands. But those guys, the Vikings, they have weapons. First off, their defense is very, very good. And on offense, despite having Cousins, you still got playmakers. You got Diggs. You got Thielen. Cook. They have some talent. I don't think that they are overrated. I would say underrated, if anything. All right, almost done here. Prediction time. Packers, Vikings at Lambeau Field, week 2 tomorrow. Like I said earlier, if the Packers can go to Soldier Field on opening night of the NFL season, Thursday Night Football, with nothing in their favor, nothing going for them, and get that win against the Bears, who I think the Bears are a better team than the Vikings, I don't see any reason why the Packers can't get a home win over the Vikings. So I'm going to take Packers, and I'm going to say 17-13. Packers win it by 4. Fan mail can be sent to aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for those of you who tweeted. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone tonight, but thank you for tweeting in on Twitter, as always, @WisconsinAaron. This is the Aaron Michael Show. We'll talk to you after the Packer game tomorrow night.